Welcome, everyone. Episode 14 of the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast. And man, they just don't stop making us cry. There's a trajectory of, I think, being a Dolphin fan, particularly this season, to one, excitement, to then anger, to now just kind of dead. And it really just sucks. You know, they come off of a 28-27 loss to the Cardinals at home, a team that, you know, I don't want to say we're better than anybody because we're not, but a team that's, you know, about your equal, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse. But again, at the end of the day, this team loses games because of self-inflicted wounds. They have a 20-10 lead that they build. You got Tua back. He's playing fairly well. Again, some dumb mistakes. They fumbled the ball 4 times. They have the 20-10 lead. You know, if you want to say a hard snap, Tua misses the snap, goes in the end zone, safety. Now Cardinals score, miss the 2 points, and then your defense, which we're going to get to, really, really puts you in a hole. And you go down, you over pursue Kyler Murray all day long. You actually do a decent job in the overall run game, but at the end of the day, wasn't good enough, and the defense is really going to start rearing its ugly head, I think, as they start playing better teams and with the injuries that they have at key positions and just not enough depth and not enough pass rush. So you lose a game to now go to 2-5, and now season really, really on the line. You go on Sunday to Highmark Stadium to face the 6-2 Buffalo Bills, who basically have called you their bitch for about the last 8 years. These games haven't even been close, other than the game that we blew at the end of last year that would have won the division after you blew a 3-game lead with 5 games to play. So it is not looking good. It is not looking promising, and there's a lot circling around this team as we prepare for this game and as we prepare for the trade deadline on Tuesday. So kind of just putting a bow on last week's game. Again, the mistakes. You did some decent stuff where you ran the ball for 150 yards, so you've seen consistent run game, and you can tell your offense is better and it's more NFL regular offense. But again, the mistakes at key moments and not being able to put a team away, I mean, it just bites you. And albeit this team should really be 0-7 if you took out the fumble in the Jaguar game and if you took out the Patriot game with the weird foot down, not foot down touchdown. That being said, you could be 0-7, but you blew opportunities in Indianapolis. You blew the game last week. Obviously, you got killed by the Bills. You got killed by the Seahawks. But, I mean, you could have went into this game at 3-4 or 4-3. And albeit, I don't think it's going to matter because I think Buffalo is a better team. And I'm going to give you a spoiler. I think they're winning the Super Bowl because it'll be the ultimate kick in the balls to any Dolphin fan for the Bills after you have this terrible season, which God only knows where it's going to go, to be winning the Super Bowl. So let's pray I'm wrong. I like when I'm wrong much of the time, but it's just the feeling that you get. So that wraps up that game. Then you get into the week. You know, you get a very weird press conference with Tua where, look, Tua's a great guy, nice guy. Everybody roots for him. He has his moments. I think there's some times where he's a very mentally tough person based on the things he's dealt with in injuries, going back to Alabama. And I get it. In the age of social media, these guys are on it. They see every little thing and every stupid meme and everything that's out there that criticizes him. But he gets up on the podium and they ask him about the botch snap, or it really wasn't a botch snap. It was a little hard, whatever. He gets on the podium and he basically says people criticizing him, paraphrasing, you know, they don't know how it is because they're sitting on the couch eating potato chips. I mean, bro, do you need to say that? Like, you're making $252 million and you're lucky that this is probably the only organization I was going to give you that because we're just dumb. So they're giving you all this money and now you're going to like start calling people out. Like, slow your roll, bro. Like, you made a mistake. He made a mistake. Man up to it in a press conference and move on. Like, nobody needs to, you never win the game when you go after the fans. You just don't. It's like, yeah, you're in that position doing that and making that, being able to even make that mistake because of who you are and because fans are not you. So, again, it all goes back to me with this team and this organization. There is a lack of mental toughness. And there's always chatter. And you know where I don't hear chatter? The teams that win. I don't hear stupid ass quotes coming from the Ravens or the Bills or the Steelers. I don't. And I don't know why. I can tell you why. I don't think Mike McDaniel's going to get into anybody's face and say, hey, let's not feed the fuel on what's already a bad situation. And I get it. These are press conferences, they're words, but it tells you what the overall attitude is. And you guys should be pissed off at yourself, not the fans who are eating chips, who are mad and annoyed and criticizing you because you missed a snap and we lost the game. So bad look is what it is. We move on. But this team right now is just at this crazy crossroads, and you're just in a buzzsaw. You're going into Buffalo, and they're better than you, and they're healthier than you, and you would need to basically play a perfect game. But I want to kind of go here next. So you got the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. And a lot of people are like, hey, will the Dolphins be sellers? Will they be buyers? What will they do? What's Chris Greer's job security? And that all being said, there's a lot of ways to look at it. One, is Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel's job secure? I think it is, personally, unless this completely goes off the rails. I think Ross has patience. I also think everybody needs to understand the way the team is constructed and the way the contracts are constructed. You can't just go say, hey, we're going to go get rid of everybody that you don't want, and you got all these quote-unquote overpaid guys, because there's a salary cap. You'd take cap hits. You'd be paying dead money. You'd be the Broncos paying Russell Wilson to play for the Steelers, and the Steelers get him for nothing, and he's winning games for them now. That's what it would become. So you can't do that. There's obviously going to need to be retooling here. The draft, can we build more draft picks? Can we make some moves? There's going to be a lot to that. But ultimately, for right now, when you lose this game, which you're going to lose this game, spoiler of who I'm picking, there might be a couple of moves you can make. If you said, okay, we lose the game and we're going to shop guys who are on the team who we know are not going to be here, but have a little value to get us a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick. Calais Campbell, Teron Armstead, maybe Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Some of these guys like that they're on like that last year or year and a half or 2-year kind of a deal. Can you make that argument? Yes. I don't think it's going to happen, because I think ultimately even though they don't talk about it, Greer, I think, got extended with McDaniel, and where this organization has screwed up many times. And the reality is, when they have to reset something here next, which probably won't be the end of this year, it'll probably be the next, they need to say, and I just want to be clear, I'm not Mr. fire everybody. I'm not. There's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of continuity, but I will say this. You need, when you do that, and if you do that, you need president, football operations, buck stops here guy, who goes to the owner, who then gets his coach, and they then marry to get their quarterback. Obviously, you're going to have 2 of them, most likely, depending when this happens. But that has to be, and then that culture needs to be built. The problem is Greer, who's been in the organization 24 years, he's a chameleon. I'm going to keep my job guy. He does not get in the face, from what it seems, of Mike McDaniel and say, hey, Mike White and Skylar Thompson are terrible at minicamp and training camp. And we got a quarterback, albeit he played 18 games last year, who has a concussion history. We got to get Sam Darnold. We got to get Jameis Winston. We got to get a guy who's a competent, above average NFL quarterback who can come in if Tua goes down and goes on IR for 4 games and go 2-2 and keep our season at 500 or better. So when Tua comes back, we can go on a run. We can be, 2 games over 500. We can make the playoffs. We can contend for the division. That didn't happen. The right president of football operations would say to the coach, this is what we're doing and why. Now, do they need to be together? Do they need to be married on the decisions? Of course. But the buck needs to stop with somebody. And that guy needs to cascade down. You had it when you got Parcells. He got Sperano. They got disciplined. They got tough. Parcells was highly involved. You got better, you made the playoffs. Was it the ultimate greatest move ever? No. It only lasted for a short time. I think there was other conflicts in the organization. But for that 2008 year and into 2009, and again, they made mistakes in the draft and Pat White, and we can go down that rabbit hole another day maybe. That really set it off. They didn't do enough to build on it, but that was the right structure. I don't know if you're going to get that here. You cannot play this game of, all right, so you extend to McDaniel, you're going to fire Greer, you're going to get a guy in here who you're not going to get the right guy because the right guy wants the buck to stop with him, and the right guy is not going to want to take on a coach who's a failing coach. He's just not. Unless he does it and he says, hey, let me come in and let him hang himself. You can't, it has to be together. Now, getting way ahead of ourselves, but you can just kind of see where this is going. If we turn into 2-6, albeit that schedule is not a killer, it's a killer when you're playing the way you're playing and when you have the injuries that you have and when you're 2-6 and when you're going to have a lot of questions, you're going to have more questions than answers. So it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, that's, as we evolve this season and you have a lot of football left. We're in November, barely. Got a long way to go. So it's going to be really interesting. Now, if we want to look at a positive, they were 1-7 in 2021. They turned it around. And now, could you do it again? Sure, you could. I'm not holding my breath. Now, to beat the Bills, you have to play a perfect game. Do I think you're going to play a perfect game? I don't. You would have to get 3 turnovers or more from Josh Allen. You'd have to be nearly perfect 0-1 turnovers. You'd have to continuously run the ball the way you were, probably 150. You'd have to play in a shootout. You'd have to get 275 to 300 from Tua. You'd basically have to play an offensive game the way they played last year against some of these bad teams where they just bludgeon them. And then on top of it, get mistakes from a guy who you got to give him a hell of a lot of credit. He's really turned himself around from being a turnover machine in his career, Josh Allen, to basically now he has 1 turnover the whole year, and he's utilizing, I guess we'll say weapons, even though everybody said they had no weapons. The run game, his good O-line. They did get Amari Cooper. He's now in his 2nd game this week. So it's going to be tough sledding to try and pull this off. It just really is. You got no Zach Sealer, again, with the orbital socket injury. Caterco, who's got a neck injury. That's huge because then that moves Jalen Ramsey around. Ramsey cannot do the things he wants to do. He's been blitzing a lot. They have no pass rush from edge rushers. Their edge rushers are just non-existent. And now you don't have Sealer who can plug the middle. So now you got to create this pass rush and then against the guy who is hard enough to pass rush. So, you're going to give up some points, whether you want to or not. You just have to hope you can contain and get mistakes. Contain, get mistakes. And then when you get the ball, you better be damn near perfect. You better be Miami Dolphins of 2023, tearing it up on offense, scoring 35 points. Because if you're not, if you play this, we score 17, we score 20, and we turn the ball over 2-3 times, and we make Tua look bad, and we make dumb mistakes and dumb false starts because you're on the road, you're deader than dead. And we'll see. Can it save the season? I don't know. Not holding my breath. Don't feel good about it whatsoever. But you hope, this is why you watch the games, this is why they play the games. You hope they can figure something out here and pull this out to keep themselves somewhat alive. You'd be 3-5, they'd be 6-3, and then you get the Rams in LA, which will be next week. Really excited for that. And then home Patriots, home Raiders, Green Bay Thanksgiving, at Cleveland, home for the Jets. So, look, got a lot of football ahead. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do here. So, my pick in the league where they play for pay. Dolphins Bills, Sunday at 1, Highmark Stadium. The Bills favored by 6 only? That is wild, but I guess, the odds makers usually know. Over under is 49. So, Dolphins obviously, down in the dumps, coming in as cold as you can be, and the Bills are as hot as they can be, and you just hope there's maybe some miracle upset, and it does happen in the league, and it particularly can happen against division opponents. I think, number one, your defense will not be able to stand up to Josh Allen. I think he will go off. I think he'll be running, passing. I think he'll be getting James Cook involved. The tight ends are going to eat you up, and I think the Dolphins will be the Dolphins. They'll make their mistakes. False starts, a couple of turnovers, a couple of stupid Mike McDaniel play calls that makes you scratch your head, and some poor special teams, because at the end of the day, I think at this point, now when you're getting into the middle of the season, you kind of are what you are. So my prediction, hope and pray I'm wrong, Bills 31, Dolphins 17. Dolphins go to 2-6. It's just spiraling, trying to figure anything out coming out of this game. And I think it's going to be people are going to be out with the pitchforks if they go down and they lose this game. Hell, if you lose it at all, but if you lose it by 2 scores, hence why I think the 6-point spread on the road is a little weird to me. So maybe that's a sign. Let's hope and pray. But yeah, Bills 31, Dolphins 17. Let's hope I'm wrong. Maybe we can reverse that score. We'll see you next week in Los Angeles. Let's go Dolphins. Save the season. See you next week.